Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tim Gaither Podcast, Wrestling Wednesday. My guest today is Seth Gross. Seth is a two-time NCAA finalist. He's an NCAA champion. He's currently training for the Olympic team, so let's bring him in. I'm super excited about this. What's up, buddy? Can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Taking the time to do this.
Yeah, of course.
So what's your training schedule like these days?
It's pretty good right now. So just got really back into things. I took some time this summer, obviously, and then leading up to Beat the Streets, I got a good training cycle in. So kind of easy the last couple weeks, and now we're starting to haul up the work a little bit here. So 3-4 lifts a week, and then on the mat probably 3-4 times too. So
When are the trials now?
they're not till April.
Okay.
So.
Wow. So that's quite a ways away.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of trying to get a little stronger and trying to just get my body in tip-top shape for making 125. Because when I made it for the Bill Farrell, I felt like it was not I made it and I felt good that day, but then after that, I just didn't feel good, and I just feel like I need to get my body the right size for making it. So.
Is that the only time that you've made 125?
Yeah, since my sophomore year of high school. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it'd been like 6-7 years since I had been that light.
Yeah. When did you realize that you were really good at wrestling? Was it when you were a kid?
So I was good probably within the state when I was a kid. I did really well. I got like Triple Crown things. I just loved wrestling. I was always a little chunkier, a little bigger, so I was wrestling bigger kids and stuff. But when I got serious about it, I never did. Like whenever I went to national tournaments as a kid, I didn't really do well. That's kind of, I don't know if it was a mental thing or what it was, but I did good within the state, and then I travel other places and kind of get my butt kicked by those good guys in the country. And then I'd say my freshman year, I decided, hey, I love wrestling and I want to be the best I can be at it. And I really kind of committed to the sport a lot more. And that's when I kind of broke onto the national scene and started doing a lot better as far as, that level.
And you went to high school in Minnesota, is that right?
Yep, Apple Valley.
How did you do there in high school?
So I was a 3-time state champ, and then my freshman year I got third place. I lost in the semifinals in double overtime. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how many losses did you have in high school? Do you know?
I had a lot my freshman year. I want to say somewhere around 12 to 15 throughout my career. But most of them came my freshman year. I think I lost 1 my sophomore year, 2 my junior year, and 1 or 2 my senior year, something like that. So.
Cool. You're the first guy that I've gotten to talk to that I've had a lot of NCAA champions and world champions and legends on here, but you're the first guy I've gotten to talk to that's still competing. And you're the first guy that I've gotten to talk to that didn't get to wrestle at the NCAA tournament this year.
Yeah.
How hard was that for you mentally to be, you're going for your second national title and all that. And how hard was that?
Yeah, I mean, it sucked because obviously that was what we trained for that entire year, was for that national tournament. That's why I came back and decided to, do another year of school, get a medical redshirt, was to go try to win 1 more national title. But at the end of the day, I was still focused. My main focus that whole year was I'm going to make an Olympic team and I'm going to win an Olympic gold medal. So that was where my mind was at. So when they said no national tournament, I kind of just flipped the switch and said, okay, well, I got an Olympic title to win. And that's what I was thinking about. So it sucked, but I really didn't lose sleep over it. I probably more felt for some of my teammates that didn't get a chance to get on the podium, or some of the guys that, never got a chance to go to the national tournament and experience that. So I felt for those guys, but personally it was just, now I got to go do the next thing. And that's kind of where my mindset was at. And then obviously they postponed the Olympics, and that's where it was like, man, so this is kind of a bummer, but it didn't get canceled. So I just try to pick out the positive and say, hey, now I got another year to get better. I got another year to get my body right to make 57 kilograms. And this is going to be the first time I've been wrestling freestyle for a whole year and specifically focusing on that style. So I try to just constantly pull out the positives that I could in the situation.
Yeah. I had this theory that even though you had some close matches and you took a couple of losses, I had this theory that I was like, I think Seth Gross is just going to unleash on everybody at NCAAs. And Was I right?
I was ready for it. I probably felt, and one thing I never really talked about this during the season or much is like I was coming off back surgery, man. I was coming off of that. That takes a year and a half to really fully heal to the extent, and I was wrestling matches 7 months, 8 months after. So that was lingering all year. I didn't really start training 100% until January, February time, right? The whole first half of the year, it was like I'd be on the mat a few times a week, and then I'd have to back off because my back would be tight. I'd be able to lift once or twice a week, and then have to back off. So it was like I was doing what I could, pushing my body to the limits, but as soon as I hit that, I need to back off so I didn't have something come up with my back. So my training wasn't great then. And then once January hit, that was about the year mark for my surgery. That's where it really started feeling a lot better, and I could actually train weeks on end without having setbacks. And that's where I really started to feel a lot better, a lot more confident. And for me, it's my confidence comes in knowing, I trained as hard as possible. And it was hard for me in the beginning of the year knowing that I wasn't training like I used to. I wasn't able to do what I used to. So it was honestly a great experience for me up here because I learned that, there is different ways to win. There's different ways to go about things, and recovery is important. And in the past, it was just run through a wall until you can't run through the wall no more, and then get back up and do it again the next day. And it was that's how I was used to training. So it was eye-opening to me to have to train a different way and have to learn that you can't always have your foot on the gas pedal. So
yeah. You were in 133, which is a really loaded weight class, and I think you wrestled just about all the top guys. Who of those guys would you say was the toughest matchup for you?
So that's an interesting question. I say the first time that I ever wrestled any of them, it was definitely DeSantos, just because he has that unique feel that you're not going to get from anybody else, right? He's got that, you can practice it all day long, but he's got that vice grip that you got to feel it to know what it's like. So I'd say he was the first guy that first time I wrestled him, I was like, dang, man, I don't know what to do right now. And obviously I went back to the drawing board and I was able to figure it out and know what I had to do. But I think the first time was definitely him. Sebastian Rivera's tough. Him, Rivera, RBY, they all present unique style of wrestling, right? RBY is super athletic, super quick. Rivera is good at change. He's strong. He's powerful. He's good at changing level, getting quick finishes on his attack. So they all presented different things that I had to be ready for. But I definitely say first time around was DeSanto.
Yeah. Who how hard was it for you to keep your weight down during the season? What were you walking around at or trying to?
About 135-ish. I mean, so the hard part was I was feeling really good, and then I got down to 57 and I could not put the weight back on.
Oh, really?
So I made 125 at the Bill Farrell for that, and then it was like I was eating as much as I could. I was lifting. I was doing whatever I can to try to put weight on, and it just was not going. It was not putting back on very well. So it was like I would be 130 going into a weigh-in and have to drink and eat just to weigh in and look like I was a full-sized 133-pounder. So it just took some time to get back to there. It probably took me about a month to really get back up to walking around closer to 140. So
towards the end of the season, you were weighing about 140?
Yeah, I'd say 138 to 140 was kind of what I was walking around at towards the end of the season, the day before weigh-ins and stuff. So
it's got to be difficult to be going through your college season, but your mind be on, not to say it wasn't on the winning the NCAA championship, but to have it on a different goal, a different style, and you're worried about your weight and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting experience, but at the end of the day, I love the challenge. I love the, opportunities it presented. It was cool to be able to do that. And, we've seen guys like Kyle Snyder be able to do it, Jaden Cox, a few other guys. And, so it gave me the confidence to know, you can do this and still go win that Olympic title. So I never looked at it as a setback or anything. I just said, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to go do it. So that's kind of, I just let it be like that and focus, every day. It was interesting. I think that I probably should have spent a little more time on my freestyle stuff throughout the college season. I was probably only doing one or two freestyle workouts a week at most throughout the whole college season, which, going back, I think, hey, you need to focus on this. I know how to ride, guys. I know how to wrestle folk style. I've been doing that forever, right? But the Olympics are coming up, so I need to do a little more freestyle. So that's the only thing I'd say that, I probably should have focused on more.
Yeah. I always wanted to ask you because I was at the NCAA tournament when you got second, and you pretty much, from what I remember, you steamrolled everyone to the finals, and then you had a great match with Corey Clark. What do you remember most about that match? Did you guys, sorry to ask two questions, but did you guys train a lot together when you were at Iowa?
Yeah, so we didn't train maybe a lot. I was a 41-pounder, and we'd train probably once a week. Nothing, we weren't like specific training partners or anything like that. But yeah, it was interesting. I had a great tournament. My quarterfinals match and my semifinals match, I majored two guys that had beat him like the last month of season.
Yeah.
And I was confident going in, and I think I don't know if I let the outside things get to me, if it was the pressure, what it was. A lot of the build up around that match was, right, the redemption story, the wrestling my old teammate, and every interview, everybody I talked to, that's kind of the question that came up. So that was, I think, going through my mind a lot. And usually I'm pretty clear-minded and, relaxed going out there. And I wasn't that match. I'd say I was letting a lot of things get in my head. And I went out there, and I actually got – and I hadn't gotten tired that whole year, right? Condition was tip-top shape, and I got tired in that match. I got – my mind was tired. It was interesting. And by that third period, I didn't have a ton of gas in the tank like I usually had. And, some of that's in my head. Some of, he's really good. He's a good, he grabs that 2-on-1. He wears on you. He puts you in positions. But I don't think I wrestle to the best of my ability. But with that being said, I think it was the best thing for me moving forward that really made me train at another level that whole next year. And, made me realize, that I was getting a little bit confident that year, and it kind of knocked me back into reality that, hey, you still got to put, all that work in. So
How do you normally prepare mentally for your matches?
I'm pretty laid back. I honestly don't get too nervous, right? I got my faith. If my faith is in God, and I give it all to him, and every time I go out there, I give a prayer to God, and just no pressure, because I know that if I lose this match, if I win this match, it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, my identity is in Jesus Christ, and wrestling something that he's given me the opportunity to do. And I'm just grateful for that. So I go out there, no pressure, and just let it fly every single time, win or lose. And I feel like that really helped me get to the next level when I was able to do that. Because it wasn't always like that. But once I was able to say, hey, these wins and losses, right, I'm giving them all up to God regardless. And I'm gonna represent him out there, and I'm gonna do the best I possibly can with the talents that he's given me. So that was kind of been my mindset for the last few years here. And I feel like at the end of the day, that lets me, like I just lost at Beat the Streets. I walked off the mat, obviously I wanted to win, but I was perfectly fine. And I was able to sit down with my coaches, pick apart the match, and then enjoy the day there, and just enjoy how cool the scenery was, one of the coolest atmospheres I got to ever wrestle at, and just go eat some food and relax and have a good time. And you look 3-4 years ago, I lose a match. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm go slam the door in my hotel room. I put my phone away, and nobody hears from me from 2 days. And
yeah,
that didn't. There's nothing really positive coming out of that. Whereas now it's just like, it happens. It happens. How you gonna fix it moving forward?
Yeah, I've had a lot of days like that where I'm, and then when I look back on it, I'm like, man, I wish I had that day back. I just wasted a day, and when I don't feel when I'm grateful for the positions I'm in rather than, nervous about them, I find it works out a lot better. But speaking of that Corey Clark match and getting tired, it's crazy how you can be in that good a shape. Obviously you're in the NCAA finals, you're in amazing shape. But sometimes it just, the moment or whatever it is, especially like the first round of the tournament. I mean, I never wrestled in the NCAAs, but I know what it's like to be just like, God, I feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's kind of one of the big things that I did differently. My first NCAA finals to my second one was when I wrestled Corey Clark, I was sitting around all day just thinking about that match all day. I replayed it in my head 3,000 times. I was going through all these different scenarios, and I don't usually do that. I'm usually pretty, I think about it, and I always think about me winning the match. But I was just thinking of all the things he could have done, what I was going to do, and I didn't. I psyched myself out a little bit. And then the next year, right, I acted like it was a normal day. I got up, I had breakfast, I hung out with my family, we played some games, we walked around, and I didn't think about the match. Then when I got over to the arena, right, then I knew it was time to dial in. I got my warm-up in, and then I did my thing. And that let me, I don't know, I just felt so much more clear-minded and ready to go versus I just mentally wore myself out from thinking about the Corey Clark match for 7-8 hours before it even happened.
Yeah. It probably helps having two guys in your corner like John Reeder and Chris Bono too. What are those guys like?
They are the most positive, energetic guys, and yeah, I owe a lot to those two. They really helped me take me in my wrestling to the next level. I'd say the biggest thing was just their belief in me and them always just reassuring me how good I was, and they do that for everybody. And I think that's one of the biggest things in wrestling is just, every day I walk into the wrestling room and Coach Reeder's, hey, what's up, world champ, right? And what's up, national champ? And it's just that positive energy every single day. It's like, I'm excited to go work out. I didn't always have that with other coaches, but with these guys, it's like, I want to get around these guys. I want to be around them 24/7. I want to be around them in the room, out of the room. And they're just guys that, right, they bring that intensity to every area of their life. It's not just inside the wrestling room. They care just as much about your wrestling as they do you becoming a good person, as you just doing the right things as far as your faith, right? And they're really good at keeping you accountable, right? If I tell them I want to be a national champ, they're going to make sure that what I'm doing outside of the wrestling room 100% aligns with that, right? Hey, Seth, you said you want to be a national champ, but you're just doing what everybody else is doing, right? What extra workouts do you need to go in? Get now, right? You say that your faith's important to you. Why weren't you at Bible study Tuesday morning, right? Little things like that, they kept me accountable in every single aspect of my life. And once, every area of your life is doing really well, it all starts elevating. And that's kind of what those guys did for me, right? I was at a low point when I met these two, and they really changed the trajectory of where I was headed.
Cool. Yeah, they both look like they're still in great shape. Do they both still wrestle in the room with you guys?
Yeah, they both still get on the mat. Reeder's beating the crap out of guys on a daily basis. Bono gets on there a couple times a week, but yeah, they're always out there. They're always still waking up 5 a.m, getting their workouts in, and it's always that intensity.
Yeah, as I age, I want to emulate guys like that. I'm older than Reeder, obviously, but Bono a few years older than me. But I would like to try and stay healthy like that. And I was kind of hurt for John Reeder because he was such a freaking beast, but they took away a weight class for him. He didn't really have a weight class, and I always thought that stunk. 57, by the way, is just bananas. I mean, it might be the most loaded bracket I think I've ever seen. What's it going to take to navigate a field like that?
It's always, whenever you got that many high-level guys in one bracket, it's going to be the tiniest little things that matter, right? It's doing the tiny little things right consistently and showing up and being ready to compete on that given day. I think that we got 5, 6, 7 guys that could show up, and if they have their best tournament, that they could win that day. And I think that that's something crazy to think about. I don't think that there's typically that deep of a weight class where you really have no idea. Yeah, some people might think, maybe there's these 2 or 3 guys that are a little bit ahead, but I'm telling you, I think that there's 6, 7 guys that are within. Any of them could beat anybody, and I think it's going to be interesting. And I think for me personally, I need to get better at my parterre wrestling. I need to get better at just little freestyle things, just not giving up points off of, I front head pinch somebody or I belly tilt them, not giving up a reversal after that. And it's just the little things for me. I really like I said earlier, I haven't really focused on freestyle wrestling year round ever. So it's going to be cool to really spend the time to tune up my freestyle and get ready to go. But like I said, it's going to be the little things. Who can make the weight the right way? who's gonna, do their diet, who's gonna have the best cardio, who's gonna show up ready to go. There's a million things that come into play, and it's just gonna be who did the most things right.
Yeah, it's so loaded that sometimes I'll be like making a list of 57. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my god. And then I look at my list. I'm like, I didn't even put Thomas Gilman on there. You
Yep.
he's one of the top guys. So yeah, I'll be pulling for you, man. Who instilled? I've been really impressed with your your faith, and you're willing to talk about it. Who instilled that in you? Was that your parents?
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up in a household where we went to church every week. I was involved with Bible studies, different things like that, and I was around it, right? I knew the Bible verses, I knew the basics, and but it wasn't until I got in trouble at Iowa that I really started creating that personal relationship with God, which I think is one of the most important things, right? You can know the things in the Bible, know how you're supposed to act, do this and that, but until you spend time, right, growing, talking to God, and really just getting to know Him and being vulnerable, that I think that you can really start taking a step forward in your faith. And I think that that's kind of when it happened for me. I was at one of the darkest places. And at first it was like, why I do the right things? Why is this happening to me, God? To, you're just trying to pull me back in, right? I've been straying away from you. You're trying to pull me back in and create that relationship with me. And once I realized that, it was just night and day of just how I looked at my faith and how important, and that how grateful I became that every opportunity that you have, right, it can be stripped away at any minute, right? And God's blessed me with these things, and I just want to make the best of every single opportunity. So it was definitely through that experience that I was able to kind of take my faith to the next level and just have that personal relationship.
Cool. How would you advise people to read the Bible? I mean, I read it, but how would you advise somebody to read it?
The cool thing nowadays is that there's a million really good resources out there, as far as, you can download the Bible app and they have a million different options of devotions you can go through. I really like the structure of things, right? I'm not the type of person who can just open up my Bible and start reading on a random page every single day. So I do a lot of those Bible studies, whether it's, I got a bunch of books on them, I download, one on my phone or something, but I love having that structure. So I always like to, if there's something that I feel that I've been struggling with, maybe I'll look for a devotion on that topic, or I'll look for a plan that has to do with that. And I think that's an easy way to, really get that personal, like, these verses are really what I'm going through. So I'm going to read a lot of this week. And, that's one easy way to start. There's really cool study Bibles now too that I love. I just got one early in the summer. It's been one of my favorite things because it's similar to the other stuff, but it's literally right at the beginning of the Bible. They have any word you could think of, pretty much, like determination. You go there and they'll give you 7 different verses that have to do with determination, or just little things like that. So there's a lot of cool resources. And then along with that, I just think a huge thing is, right, taking the time to pray and talk to God and thank Him for everything, and let Him know how grateful you are, and tell him what you need or what you're struggling with, or things like that. So
Yeah, I had a pastor tell me that just talk to God like you would a friend for the most part, and I certainly feel better whenever I do pray. So there has to be something to it.
Yeah.
Do you ever waver in your faith?
Absolutely. I think that people that tell you that they never have, I don't know about that. I think everybody has their struggles. Everybody has those days, and it happens more than I'd like it to, right? I struggle a lot. I have a lot of areas that I'm still working on every day, and life gets busy, and I see myself not making it a priority. I spend more time maybe pursuing my hobbies or video games at certain points. That I've kind of fixed that one up, but different things that I let get ahead of my relationship with God. And it's slow, right? At first it's like, oh, it's just today, I'll get back on it tomorrow. And I do. And then maybe next week it was 2 days that I'm in, and it's that slow kind of fade away from where you want to be. And next thing you know, it's 2 months later and you haven't touched your Bible in 4 weeks. Right. And I think everybody goes through that, but right, God's always trying to pull you back to Him. And you always, that's why I think, that every time I do get there, it's always just somewhere inside my heart that I'm like, man, what are you doing? And I slowly, I get back to it. I start praying a lot more, and I kind of start getting that back. But I think that everybody goes through those personal struggles. And I think a lot of it has to do with maybe you did something that you're not proud of and you just are trying to avoid confronting that situation. And I think for me, that's been the biggest thing is I mess up or I screw up or I do something I shouldn't have done. And then instead of just taking the time to say, will you forgive me, God? Like I screwed up. I try to avoid it and act like it didn't happen. And then it adds up until there's this huge boulder that I got to get off my chest. So I think that everybody struggles, but at the end of the day, right, yeah, always find your way back.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I've felt that way a million times. Like, God doesn't want to hear from me right now.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that I try to tell people. I think that's the hardest people that are young in their faith, that it's hard for them to realize that no matter what you've done in your past, God still loves you, God forgives you, and there's still opportunity to grow in your faith and get close to God. He's not holding anything over you. And that's a conversation I have with a lot of my friends and different people in my life. It's just like, I've done this, I've done that. How could God possibly love you? But he does, right? He does not care. And he created you for a purpose and for a reason. And right, when he made you, right, he made you uniquely you for a reason. So it's tough for people to realize that, but I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah. Do you think Satan is real too? Because there are times where I'll be fully like, feel like I'm in a good place with God and all that stuff. And then there are times I'll feel like negative thoughts and like Satan is a sneaky.
Oh yeah. Master of deception. Yep. He's always trying to pull you down with the worldly things. He's the one that until God comes back and ends it, it's, he's the one that's pulling the strings on this earth. And I think that's a lot of the issues, right? He is the master of deception. He's always the voice in your head saying the nasty things about you. And right, it's hard. You just got to overflow your life with Jesus and kind of wash that away.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll feel it and I'm like, I see what you're doing, you sneaky bastard.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's always nice when you catch it right away though.
Yeah. What other hobbies are you into?
Actually, one of my big hobbies, this is a little nerding out here, but Yu-Gi-Oh! I collect a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, Pokemon cards, sports cards. Okay. I love that type of stuff, so I spend a lot of time hunted around stores looking for cards and things like that. I love anime. I love things like that. So, well, you see a little anime edit somebody made me right behind me here. But, yeah, that's kind of the other stuff I really like. And then besides that, I like getting outdoors, fishing, and being on the lake, things like that. So,
yeah. You're getting married soon too, right?
Yep. So we haven't set an exact day just because it's been tricky with everything going on, finding, venues and times and things. Right. But yep, we got engaged end of April, and so now we're just waiting until we can have that wedding.
Yeah, you're in the city where it all started, all this madness. Is it, how's it doing? Are you in Minneapolis?
I'm not right now, so I go back there quite a bit. I'm in Madison right now, but yep, I was back there for a couple months in the summer. So
okay. Back to wrestling. What would you say the hardest loss for you to take has been in your career? The most disappointing loss, was it NCAA finals?
I think that would be the most disappointed I was after that match, and that's kind of where I turned that mindset we talked about. How right, I put a lot of pressure. And that was one of those times where after that match, you did not want to be around me, right? I was slamming myself in my hotel room and not wanting to be around anybody. And that's kind of when I turned things around. So there was a lot of things that I was disappointed in that match. It was a winnable match for me. B, the way I acted after, not specifically on the mat, right? I shook his hand, I shook the coach's hand and walked off the right way, but it was just the rest of the day, right? My family, I should have hung out and went and done stuff with them more and been just in a happier mood. Just, be grateful that I just went and got second at the national tournament instead of being kind of a pity party about it. So I'd say that's just, I say that, but it's like, I needed that, right? I needed that to change my mindset. I needed that to move forward in the right direction. So it's hard to say, I wouldn't change any match if I had to, but that's one that I still think about that one a lot to this day.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to realize that, though, that, like, any regret that you have or anything that you would, if you had done anything different or if anything else had happened, you wouldn't be where you are right now. I try to tell myself
Exactly.
that all the time because I have a son now, and if I had done anything different, he might not be here, and I wouldn't trade him
Exactly.
for $1 billion. So,
Yeah.
what was your most satisfying victory?
So this one I would say was making the world team, the junior world team. And that was just because that was really emotional for me because that was the first time I won one kind of big tournament after getting in trouble. Right. I had a bad not a bad, but I had a not a great redshirt freshman year. I barely had a winning record that year, and I was just down on where I could go and didn't think I was one of those elite guys in the sport anymore. And I'd kind of not given up, but I was like satisfied. My goal was, maybe I can get on the podium my senior year, be a one-time All-American or something like that. And then that summer I trained my butt off. I actually cut down to 60 kilograms, and I end up beating Mitch McKee in a crazy best of 3 series. And that was just really emotional for me. I think that was another big match that I can look back on and really change the trajectory of my career too, and kind of gave me a little bit of confidence I needed. It also, after I won that, I was able to train throughout that entire summer. I didn't take any time off that year, and I really made some really big gains in my wrestling. So
Yeah, that was a great series, man. You've probably been in more great matches than anyone in wrestling. I mean, they're countless. I can think of so many examples of matches that you've had that were just crazy, and you came out on top in most of them.
Yeah, I think that's that. Yeah, kind of just that wide open style. I think that obviously there's a lot of work I can do on the defensive end of things, but one way or another, every time I step out there, there's going to be a lot of points on the board. So I try to keep training so it can be a little bit more in my favor each time. But yeah, I love those high scoring matches and just letting it fly.
Do you mind talking about what did happen at Iowa? Because I mean, I kind of know, but not really.
Yeah. Of course, I talk about it a lot, and yeah, it was so it was my freshman year at Iowa, right? First year in college, first time away from family, and yeah, it was just I didn't so I drank a little bit in high school, and I was kind of surrounded with the wrong group of people, and kind of struggled a little bit in high school, a little bit. My family found out about it and kind of got me back on the right track, and they were pretty strict on me after that, and I got to college, and right, obviously you get that freedom to start making your own decisions. And I actually, for the whole season, everything I was thinking about was always wrestling. So I didn't really go out. I didn't go to parties. I didn't do any of that stuff. It was wrestling 24/7, lifting weights, and I was making right choices, but wrestling was the only thing I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about my relationship with God. I wasn't thinking about building any sort of community there and being surrounded with the right people. It was just wrestling. And I want to say it was either January or February of my freshman year. I had a decent, I think I lost 2 matches my redshirt season, but had a decent year. We were coming up. I think we might have had 1 or 2 opens left, and I got a pretty bad injury in my knee and my ankle, and it was kind of freak little injury. Not really sure how it even happened, but I ended up like chipping a bone in my knee and in my ankle, and like I had a big boot on me for a while, and that was the first time that I'd really just had wrestling just completely stripped away from me, right? And when you go from wrestling being everything to you, all you're focused on all the time, to all of a sudden, what am I supposed to do, right? What now? And so I was injured. I couldn't really wrestle from February to March, and March came along. I was trying to stay focused on the right things, and then season's over, and everybody starts partying even a little bit more than normal. And some of the guys, hey, let's go out and drink, do this or that. And I was like, all right, I can't wrestle right now anyway, so let's do it. And so I went out and I drank, and I hadn't drank, like I said, since high school. So I went and I got pretty intoxicated pretty quickly there, and just one bad thing led to another, and ended up going outside, and we were gonna leave and whatever, and guys were driving around and this and that, and we started going into random cars on the side of the road and going around and taking things out of them, and we got obviously we we were drunk. We probably were making so much noise and people hearing us left and right. So we got caught pretty quick doing that. The police came and that was that. So we got charged for some burglary stuff and and then after that had to tell Coach Brands and got suspended from the team for a little bit and then ended up at South Dakota State through it all. So that's kind of the fast, shorter version of it.
Yeah. What was that meeting like with Brands after that happened?
So it was terrifying, right? But so it's kind of not to get into too much detail. That specific night, only 2 of us actually got in trouble, and one of the guys that was kind of in trouble, like he was there, but he hadn't got in trouble yet. Actually got to talk to Brands before we were even out of jail. So like he kind of knew, so we didn't really have to break it to him, which was, I guess, kind of good, not really a good thing, but right. So he already knew, and so we went in and he gave it to us and said, until this stuff is kind of figured out, you're off the team, and that was that.
Yeah. Yeah, I quit drinking about 10 years ago, and I don't know that I was an alcoholic or anything, but it was definitely the precursor to every bad thing that had happened in my life. So it can be a really evil thing. Your junior year, when you were a returning national champion, you were in the running for the Hodge, and maybe the only reason you didn't win is because you bumped up to wrestle Meredith. What went into your thinking there? Were you not – I mean, obviously you thought you were going to win. And it was a great match. Again, one of the best college matches I've ever seen. Even though it was low scoring, it was still just a great match. The scrambles you guys had were just out of this world.
Yeah.
What went into your thinking there? Were you just not worried about even thinking about the Hodge or any of that stuff? Or
I think I thought about it a little bit, but to me it was like it was Zane Rutherford's to lose. He was a multiple-time national champ. He was a bonus. Me and him were pretty close in bonus points, so I think that I just thought I got to do something awesome. And along with that, nothing like that has really happened in a decade or so. And when you're at a big school, you don't really get a chance to do that. But we were both from little schools, right, that we probably both our teams knew we weren't going to go win, maybe the national title, or that this dual season was the biggest deal in the world. So we were fortunate enough to have 2 coaches that got behind it real quick, right? We talked about it, and Mark Branch was able to say, hey, yeah, we're cool with ending the duel at 141 and doing this match. Because if you would have said, hey, we're starting at 141 or didn't agree to that, it would have been harder to make it happen. But he was like, hey, we can end at 141 and we can do this. And so, it was just something that it started out as a joke, actually. It I posted just a little promo for the match on my Instagram, and it was just, right, me and Bryce Mayer. Not that we were going to wrestle. It was just like, hey, tune into our duel this week. 2 number 1 pound wrestlers will be competing in this duel. And then I think Bryce might have just jumped on and commented, me versus God's Wrestler 133 and something like that. And it had like an insane amount of favorites and comments. And then everybody was like, actually thought we were for sure wrestling. And at this point in time, we had no intentions to do so. And then it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I reached out to Bryce and I was like, you want to do this for real? And he was like, oh yeah. And we went back and forth, and our coaches were down to make it happen. And we were like, why not? I got nothing to lose. He's got nothing to lose, right? We both were game for it. So
was it a good natured thing between the 2 of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know Bryce real well, and no, it was great. And even after the match, we talked a little bit, and it was great from start to finish.
Yeah, it was a great match. Did you have to make 133?
Yeah, that's the thing that's kind of sucks about NCAA wrestling, right? If I weighed in above we had a duel that Sunday. This was on a Thursday. If I would have weighed above 134, I wouldn't have been able to wrestle 133 at our duel on Sunday. Okay. So I ended up weighing in at 133, and I mean, it sucks, but it was still fun, and there's no excuses behind what I weighed there. I think that it's 8 pounds, obviously. Yeah, it might be a little bit of a help, but at the end of the day, we're both kind of scrambling wrestlers. I don't think either of us really use our weight a ton in the style that we wrestle, so I don't think it played too much of a factor.
Did you ever give him crap about it good-naturedly? Like, you barely beat me and you had 8 pounds on me?
I haven't. I do need to bring that up next time. I do hopefully some point we can wrestle in some freestyle. But yeah, it's because so he beat me once my freshman year, and then I beat him once, and then that was kind of the third match right there, and he got it on me. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his style of wrestling too. It was, I thought it could have gone either way when he lost that NCAA finals. I didn't, I wasn't really on board with how that played out. But
yeah.
what are you working on most to make this team? Do you watch a lot of film? Because I know I actually don't know, but I'm pretty sure there's quite a few of them you haven't even wrestled, right?
Yeah. I'm not a huge there's a lot I haven't wrestled, but I'm not a huge film on my opponents. I don't really go out and watch them. I just like to keep developing my craft and what I do. So I watch a lot of just the top athletes in the world, the top wrestlers in the world, and try to pick pieces of what they're doing and keep adding them to my inventory here and just get better that way. So I watch a ton of wrestling all the time, watching it, but it's more trying to replicate these best guys in the world. They're trying to take something they do and try to kind of fit it into my style. And I think that allows me to focus more on my offense, me getting to my stuff versus worrying about what other guy might be doing when I step out there. Cause I used to watch my opponents quite a bit, but I caught myself thinking too much about, hey, this guy has this, or wow, that was really good. I just watched his match and he destroyed this guy. And I leave that to the coaches, right? If there's a specific area that a guy that I'm wrestling is really good at, they're just going to implement it into my drills that week, into my things, and I'm never even going to really think about it. But they're doing that, right? Right? We could be clearing underhooks all week, and I don't really know why we're doing it, but it could be because the guy I'm wrestling this week does a lot of underhooks, right? So I feel like that's more of, right, your coach's job to kind of really know what your opponent's good at, and then he just got to, right, throw it into some drills you're doing and throw it into there, and you're going to be ready, right? So then you're in the mindset of you're still focused on your stuff, but this whole week you prepare without even knowing for this specific guy.
Yeah, kind of a Mr. Miyagi kind of thing.
Yeah.
How great did it feel to win that NCAA title, and what do you remember most about that tournament?
Honestly, it was so after that semifinals match, it was a crazy semifinals, and then I went out there and did pretty well and put a lot of points on the board in that finals match, and it was just a relief and a feeling of gratefulness and a feeling of, just right. I just was thankful for everybody that helped me get to that point in my journey, for, from how far I'd come. It was just cool to look back and see that stuff. But yeah, it's just one of those indescribable moments. And, it was cool because that year was the year they started bringing families onto the floor. And so I got to run over and hug my family, hug my fiance. And it was just a special moment. And it was cool because, right, it was the first national champion in South Dakota State history for Division I out of any sport. So it was cool to do that for a small program. And it was just overall just an unbelievable experience. And like I said, the biggest thing was just, I was relieved to, finish up the year, after getting second last year, just getting the job done. And then just being grateful for such an amazing opportunity and having such amazing people just in my corner.
Yeah, that Tariq Wilson match was crazy too. Were you scared at all during that match?
Oh, absolutely. That was another match that I let it get a lot of my head, right? You could see that my feet weren't moving in the match, but it was, right, I didn't know anything about him because I didn't really, right, he didn't, I think he might have not even placed at the ACC tournament or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he shows up at the national tournament and he just majored Cade Brock and majored another really good guy and came out of nowhere, right? I was just expecting, right, in the back of my head, I was like, oh, I got Cade Brock next. And then all of a sudden this guy majors him and I'm like, oh, geez, what's going on here? Yeah. So it was like, I was like, how could he be doing this? And I did watch film. One of the very few times, probably the first time that whole year I'd watched any sort of film on a guy, and probably just let it get to my head a little bit too much because I think that knowing my strengths and focus on where I was good in that match, I really could have blown it open and done, a lot better than I did. I ended up somehow getting it done in a crazy match after getting that. He took me down 5 times in regulation. I had 0 takedowns. So to win a match like that is, I was just happy to get that done and make it back to the finals after that. And next match, I didn't do any of that. I just went out there and did what I knew I could do, and it was a complete match. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that when we get off here because it was just a crazy match, and I remember being like, "Just hang on, dude."
So yeah, I think I had a 4-point turn, and I think I had a reversal and then 4 escapes, and it was 10-10. So yeah.
I meant to ask you this earlier because I was watching the match with RBY. Did you think you should have gotten 4 off that spladle?
I thought I should have, but I don't know what the ref was seeing that he thought otherwise. But typically, I've been in that position a lot, and typically that's 4. But
yeah, I watched it today, and it looked like he stopped his count, and then he did it again. So
yeah, it didn't look like anything changed when he did 2 and then stopped and did 2 more. So it was interesting, but.
Yeah, I was pretty mad for it during that. I was like, "That's 4 all day. What are you doing?"
Yeah, it wouldn't have been quite as scary of a match if I would have got that 4.
Who was the toughest? I don't even know if you can answer this because you've wrestled so many good guys. But who would you say is the toughest guy you've ever wrestled?
I don't know who I'd say the toughest is. I'd say the biggest butt whooping I ever got was by Anthony Ashnault my freshman year. Oh, yeah. At the NCAA tournament. It was in I want to say the quarter. It was either quarterfinals or the round before, and he just completely tore me apart, like 13-1 or something like that. But he got. I think he hit me in his tilt 2 or 3 times throughout that match, and I just felt like there was nothing I could do. So that was probably the one match that I got my butt whooped the worst in college wrestling. So
yeah. You're really great on top. What makes a good top wrestler? Because it's just weird to me how some guys, I was never like that as far as the legs and all that. It's just weird to me when I see people that can just turn someone at will, like you can, and Spencer Lee's that way. And what goes into making a good top wrestler?
It was just a mindset thing for me, and I was lucky enough to have a couple years with AJ Shop. And he really just instilled what he did in his college wrestling on me. And he really taught me that really at the end of the day, it is a big mindset thing. When your mindset going into the top position is, how am I going to turn this guy? It's not if I'm going to turn this guy, right? It's how am I going to turn this guy? And so I'm just looking at different ways constantly of how I can open this guy up because I probably have 4 or 5 different turns I'm looking for. And I know that every single guy that I wrestle, at least one of them is going to work on them, right? They're going to show a weakness in their position at some point, and I'm going to get to one of those 5 turns. So that was kind of my mindset. Before it was like, oh, man, this guy's good on bottom. How am I going to stop his first move? How am I going to – and I was more worried about trying to ride the guy than I never really even got the chance to think about turning him versus now all I'm thinking about is – how am I going to get this guy on his back? It really helped me get – obviously, there's a lot of technical aspects to that, but I would tell everybody, and I still do to all our guys right now, is that top and bottom wrestling is such a mindset thing, right? At the end of the day, if a guy stands up 20 times and you return him 20 times, you're still going to be on top. And same goes on bottom, right? If he puts you back down 10 times, all you got to do is get up one more time than he's willing to put you down. So really at the end of the day, it's just being able to nonstop go until you get to where you want to be. And I think that it's just you see it's super common, especially for the young guys coming into college wrestling. They're so used to standing up one time, the guy letting them go, but now you got guys in college who are willing to return you 55 times that, right, they end up just laying on their belly after they get put down one of those times. And that was kind of my thing. One thing the shop always wanted me to work on a lot more that I probably should have was my starting breakdown. That's somewhere I still could have improved on this last year was just that off that whistle. But I was always the guy that was willing to return this guy or hang on to an angle and drive, do whatever I possibly can to stay on top of him. Right. I was never going to give up that easy escape. And I knew at some point, even if the guy did end up escaping, I wasn't too worried about it because I knew at some point this guy was going to get to a point where he didn't want to try to go through what he had to go through to get out that first time. So,
yeah. The last couple of questions I'll ask you, and then I'll let you get out of here. Is what was your dad like when you were a kid starting out in wrestling? How did he approach being your dad as far as wrestling goes?
My dad was really hard on me. He for I'm trying to see what the right way to say this was, is he was hard on me. He put me through a lot of things that, as far as the extra workouts and the things that he said to me, was probably the way that you should maybe treat like a high school or something like that. But I was like a little 7-year-old, and we're in the car and he's asking me, do you really want to be the best? And you got to work harder if you want this and that. And I had no idea what that meant when I was 7 years old. And we were in the, wrestling room, doing, everybody's gone home and he's making me do 50 sprawls because I can't get my legs back from guys making me run around the room. And who knows? That probably did play somewhat of a role into my success at some point. But, it was me and him got in a lot of fights over wrestling. I felt like it was, and it improved a lot. When I got to high school, he kind of stepped back, and that's when wrestling became my own. And that's when I decided I wanted to really be good at it. But up until that point, I think it caused a lot of issues within our relationship. And once you really step back and decide, hey, I'm going to be a dad and I'm going to be a fan, is really when I started doing better and our relationship grew a lot more. But with that being said, I think that it did give some sort of toughness to me. It did give me the sense of hard work and what I had to do. And so it was a mix. I think you ask him, he'd probably give it back just to have a better relationship in that time frame. But, it was part of the experience. And it's interesting looking back on it, because now, to this day, my younger brother thinks, oh, my dad didn't care as much about my wrestling because he didn't do those things to me. Right. So it's interesting to talk about that, because, right, from my brother's eyes, it was like, he didn't care about me. That's why he didn't stay after and put me through these workouts, when it was, he didn't want to sacrifice any part of the relationship for that. So it's interesting. And I think that, it played a role. I don't know which way, who knows? Maybe he didn't do that. I'd been better. If maybe I would have been worse, who knows? But that was kind of the experiences. He kept me after when I probably didn't want to be there. He was pretty hard on me. And when you're that young, and I don't know. It was an interesting kind of dynamic there, but it played some sort of role in who I am now, I guess.
Yeah. What advice do you have for young kids, young wrestlers?
Enjoy it, fall in love with this sport, and don't be afraid to try new things. I mean, the biggest thing that I think that holds people back, maybe not at the young age. I think at the young age, they kind of do what their coaches say and try that. But as you get older, you get so comfortable doing the same things over and over and over. But always be willing to adapt, always be willing to try new things, because that's how you're going to keep getting better. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing is wins and losses don't matter if you love the sport. If you enjoy what you're doing, you enjoy the people you're around, you're right. That's what's going to matter. And at some point in time, if you decide, hey, I love wrestling and I want to be the best at it, then you can kind of start taking that next level of dedication. But especially at that young age, just enjoy it. Love the sport, enjoy being there, enjoy competing, enjoy being around those people. I think that played a huge role. I just loved to be in the wrestling room. I loved hanging out with my friends in wrestling. I loved to go to tournaments and travel with them. And those are the memories that I always look back, and that's what I still remember to this day. I don't remember my loss when I was 8 years old. I don't remember who kicked my butt here or there. It was always, I remember that trip with this buddy and we did this stupid thing at this tournament, and so things like that.
Yeah, that's what I miss about it the most too. Well, thank you so much for doing this, dude. I'm really going to be pulling for you, and it's great to watch you wrestle. And I knew just from interviews that I was like, I like this kid. So
Appreciate that.
Your faith is inspirational, and things you've done in wrestling, obviously. So I'm going to show my boy this when he gets a little bit older. He's only 2 now, so right now he wouldn't understand. But,
yeah. Really appreciate you having me on and taking the time to talk with me. It was really fun.
You bet. Did you want to plug anything, your social medias or any of that stuff?
That's all right. Just tune into Badger Wrestling this upcoming couple of years, and hopefully we'll be on the rise and striving to get to the top of college wrestling soon enough. So
cool, man. Well, I'd love to have you on again sometime. Hopefully after you win that Olympic title, and God bless you, and thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, absolutely appreciate it, and God bless you too.
Thanks, Seth. Take care, buddy.
Yeah. All
right, everybody. Seth Gross, really amazing can't call him a kid. He's a young man, but that was really cool to talk to him. As always, make sure you go to makingithappen.com, MACAN, ithappened.com. Help out little Bo Macon and his family. My website is timgaithercomedy.com. Got some dates coming up. I'm going to be at the Tulsa Looney Bin, October 14 through 17. And November 13 and 14, I will be at Stir Crazy Comedy Club. And then in January, January 8 and 9, I'll be back home in Kansas City at the Kansas City Comedy Club. I'm really looking forward to those dates. YouTube.com/Tim Gaither is obviously what this is on. But make sure you subscribe if you have not, and I would appreciate it. It helps me out, and God bless all of you. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Bye. Do us both a favor and click on that subscribe button.